But I know you want to talk about West Ham, because they've had an eventful few days, haven't they?
Yeah.
Where do you want to start?
Well, they're sort of the hardest team to predict in the league, really.
Which one?
West Ham, sorry.
Not Wolves. Wolves you find quite easy at this point?
Yeah, very concerned about Wolves, yeah. No, West Ham, I mean, up until a week ago, well, they still haven't officially signed a player, I don't think, which is remarkable, really, for a club of their stature, and the fact that they received £100 million, last month for Declan Rice. It's been a really poor summer for them. No signings up until now. Poor pre-season results. They lost 4-0 to Leverkusen and 3-1 to Rennes in the past couple of weeks. They've lost a couple of important backroom staff members. Mark Warburton left, and Paul Nevin, highly regarded coach, gone to join Patrick Vieira at Strasbourg. Obviously, they lost Declan Rice. Not just their best player, but their captain, their talisman, their heartbeat, their key to attack and defence. They also lost Lanzini and Scamacca, so the squad's got smaller. They've got Europa League this year. They're in Europe for the third year in a row, so obviously a remarkable achievement. But I guess more importantly than that, and central to that, suggestions of sort of internal strife between David Moyes, and if people don't know, they've brought in a new technical director this summer, Tim Steiden, previously of Leverkusen and Werder Bremen, I think. So him and Moyes are of contrasting philosophies and cultural football beliefs, you'd say.
Sounds like a smart appointment.
Well, that's the thing. I feel a bit sorry for David Moyes, really. So Steiden, in his last two roles in Germany, barely touched the Premier League in terms of his recruitment, and is believed to, favour more of a European or continental approach, whereas Moyes, as we know, traditionally leans on British players and Premier League players. So there's a real clash there.
Right. Looking at the players that they have brought in the last couple of days and are looking to, seems like Moyes has the upper hand. So they've agreed a 30 million fee for Harry Maguire and James Ward-Prowse. Is that over the line now?
So they've got three deals in the mix: McTominay, Maguire, and Edson Alvarez from Ajax. Very experienced Mexico international, 25 years old.
And he's seen as the Rice replacement, is that right?
I think more of a defensive midfielder rather than Rice sort of playing both roles and getting forward. But yes, essentially he'll take Rice's place in the team.
Okay.
But my God, they needed this week. I think McTominay and Maguire will be good additions. The dressing room will need that. If you look at that squad, there are not many obvious leaders in there. I'd imagine it's David Moyes who's identified those two players for those roles. But when you look at it, Moyes is sort of perennially under pressure. Even if he's winning a European competition, there's still sort of question marks over his job. So bringing in a technical director who's obviously got an extremely important job at the club, I don't know, it just sort of spells danger for me, for Moyes.
I've heard that the players don't love it. They just don't love it working with David Moyes. It's the style of football. It's difficult for a lot of the players to perform to their best. And I mean, you think about the attacking players. Lucas Paquetá has been linked, hasn't he, with Manchester City. Yeah. Obviously, anyone can get their head turned by Manchester City, but someone like Jared Bowen, good player. How many touches of the ball does he get? You know what I mean?
It's when Declan Rice joined Arsenal, he went on about how long it's going to take him to assimilate all the stuff.
Exactly. I do think there's a frustration within the dressing room. And look, there was a big drop-off, wasn't there? I think they scored 18 fewer goals. They had 16 less points last season. Even though they won a European trophy, they went backwards quite far.
Right.
I think Moyes has got a lot of work to do this season.
If you lose Declan Rice with everything that he represented for the team, and you spend that money on McTominay and Harry Maguire, is that good business?
I think they both would be good signings, but they're not going to kind of improve West Ham. They're maybe just going to get them another place or two up the table, which is not, they won a European trophy, albeit one of the newer ones, but you do feel like Moyes, he might look back and think, I should have maybe gone out on that night. And
or West Ham might think, like Bournemouth did, should have been maybe braver in hindsight and make that haircut, because it does feel inevitable.
But it's interesting that they're playing Bournemouth in the opening game, because Bournemouth have brought in Iraola, really progressive manager that a lot of clubs looked at, and they're looking at players like Alex Scott, who has been brilliant in the Championship. And if you had a choice between someone like Alex Scott and Ward-Prowse, I think I'd go for Scott. More potential, bigger future. James Ward-Prowse is a very good player, but there's probably a reason that he's never got a move before now.
Yeah, they need more of the ball. They need to be more attack minded, because Rice saved them. Like, he was the legs of the team. He was the engine, the heartbeat. You look at the number. You know the numbers, Duncan. I mean, they're just extraordinary in terms of the interceptions and the ball-winning qualities. Take that guy out.
Yeah, if you
I don't think you want to be doing too much defending with that guy missing. I think they need to play on the front foot this season.
I mean, you take out defenders, and Rice carried the ball more than anyone by miles in the Premier League last year. I mean, you could argue that one of Maguire's strengths that wasn't used at United recently is carrying the ball out. So he could possibly do a bit of that. But yeah, Rice is a very difficult player to replace.
Hello there. If you've enjoyed this video, why not subscribe to this channel? The Totally Football Show podcast is available 3 times a week, bringing you all the football news you could reasonably be expected to care about. We've got views, we've got stats, we've got analysis, we've got some of the best football writers around, and the whole thing is absolutely free. So have a listen on Spotify or Apple Podcasts or all the usual places by clicking on the link below.